Welcome to the Orange County Atheist TV show. My name is Bruce Gleason and my co-host is Vaughn Reese. Welcome, Vaughn.
Hi, Bruce. Thanks for having me again today, and I'm looking forward to another exciting show.
It will be an exciting show, and I first have to mention that if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to email us at orangecountyatheist@backyardskeptics.com, or we have a phone number answering machine at 714-998-8682.
We also support our friends at Atheist United, Orange County Atheist, and all the meetup groups on meetup.com.
There are many atheist and skeptic groups all around the country. If you're interested in joining one, just Google atheist in your county or your city, and you can find out how to get in touch with other atheist groups in your area. In the show, we'll be talking about Pascal's wager. Pascal's wager. Can we give a brief explanation of what Pascal's wager is about, Vaughn?
Simply, it's a bet. It's a bet that if you believe in God, then there's a good chance you'll go to heaven, and if you don't, you're not going to go to heaven. Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of a crazy wager. It's all it is a crapshoot.
Mm-hmm. Pascal's wager is a suggestion posed by the French philosopher Blaise Pascal that even though the existence of God cannot be determined through reason, a person would wager as though God exists, because so living has potentially everything to gain and certainly nothing to lose.
Historically, Pascal's wager was groundbreaking as it charted new territory in probability theory, was one of the first attempts to use the concept of infinity, and marked the formal use of decision theory, and anticipated the future philosophies of pragmatism and voluntarism.
Pascal's wager is this: if there is no God and you are an atheist, you lose nothing. Whereas if you believe in a God and the God does exist, you gain everything. But if you believe in a God and it turns out that God does not exist, again, you gain nothing. Whereas if you do not believe in a God like us and a God does exist, you lose everything, or eternal damnation.
This is, of course, assuming that you pick the right God or religion. But since there are thousands of religions in the world, how do you know you're picking the right one? If you have 1,001 chance of picking the right God, then you have a 999 in 1,000 chance of going to hell because the religion you picked wasn't the right one.
In this case, since you don't believe in the real God, you are going to hell after all. To put it another way, Pascal's wager fails in the fact that there are too many gods to believe in, and it would take more than a lifetime to examine all of the religions and all of the gods.
Additionally, after looking at all the religions and taking up Pascal's wager, wouldn't you just choose the religion that has the least worst hell? A person cannot simply will himself to believe something that is evidently false to him. That the wager would apply as much to belief in the wrong God as it would to belief in all gods, leaving the believer in any particular God in the same situation as the atheist or agnostic. That God would not reward belief in him based solely on hedging one's bets.
If God is omniscient, all-knowing, he would know that you were just playing the odds and truly not believing in a religion. Therefore, you would still go to hell. The possibilities defined by Pascal's wager can be thought of as decision under uncertainty with the values of the following decision matrix, which we'll show on the screen now.
Richard Dawkins, a well-known atheist, suggests that the wager does not account for the possibility that there is a God that rewards honest, attempted reasoning, and instead punishes blind or feigned faith.
Richard expands this argument as such. Suppose there is a God who is watching us and choosing which souls of the deceased to bring to heaven, and this God really does want only the morally good to populate heaven. He will probably select from only those who made a significant and responsible effort to discover the truth.
For all others are untrustworthy, being cognitively or morally inferior, or both. they will also be less likely ever to discover and commit to true beliefs about right and wrong. That is, if they have a significant and trustworthy concern for doing right and avoiding wrong, it follows necessarily that they must have a significant and trustworthy concern for knowing right and wrong.
Since this knowledge requires knowledge about many fundamental facts of the universe, such as whether there is a God in the first place, it follows necessarily that such people must have significant and trustworthy concern for always seeking out, testing, and confirming that their beliefs are about such things that are probably correct. Therefore, only such people can be significantly moral and trustworthy to deserve a place in heaven, unless God wishes to fill heaven with morally lazy, irresponsible, or untrustworthy people.
This would render initially the four-box set inaccurate, because it does not include the possibility of a God who rewards non-belief or punishes belief. A revised set would look like this.
Now, as you can see by the graph, God is rewarding people that actually look at the world around them, see nature, try to understand nature through exploration, through scientific method, and not by blind faith. In fact, the people who are even espousing, like us, that are atheists, that there is no God, might actually go to heaven if God really does exist. And the other people that are believing in blind faith, what happens to them?
Obviously, they're going to go to hell.
And that's why are they going to hell?
Good
In this
question.
particular sixth box, or two extra boxes that Richard Dawkins puts in, why are they going to hell?
Simply because they subscribe to blind faith.
That's right, because in this particular scenario, that God is rewarding people that actually do, that are curious enough about their world to explore their world. And so they really don't know which way it could go. There's 6 different scenarios. If there is no God at all, then all of us just die. And let's go back a little bit to Pascal's wager, because ever since man thought of an afterlife, why did they even think that an afterlife existed?
Well, nobody wants to die. Everybody, all of us want to live forever. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to think that life has some kind of finite end to it, mm-hmm. that we're buried in the ground and that's it. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that's probably the case.
Well, if there was evidence of heaven, I, as an atheist, would actually want to go to heaven.
Oh, all of us would.
All of us would.
All of us would. There's no doubt about that. I'd be the first in line if I could.
Right. And there's no evidence, of course, besides the myth of the Bible, which I will call it the myth because I don't believe that Jesus actually did arise. I believe it was all written, and that's a topic for a whole nother, excuse me, a whole nother episode of the show. But let's assume that we cannot see any evidence of anybody rising from the dead.
Well, atheists are realists. They realize, since there's no way we can know what the future is going to bring, you know, the eternal now, right now, that's what's important. And that's why we're so adamant about encouraging people to think about the world as it really is. Mm-hmm. Fantasy is nice, but I think it belongs in the realm of science fiction. You know, makes for great reading, but it provides no solid ground to make decisions on.
Isn't it comforting, Vaughn, if a Christian came to you and said, I know where I'm going, and I'm going to be seeing all my relatives and my family? What would you say to that?
Well, it is comforting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it you know, feeds back into this idea that we want to live forever. Mm-hmm. You know, I think this is a problem within atheism because we don't have that comforting outlook to look forward to, even if it is a fantasy.
Well, exactly. Well, going back to Pascal's wager, all of the people of one particular religious sect is depending that their God is true and the only one. But since there are thousands of different religions in the world, most of them are believing in this heaven, and most of them believe that the only way to get to their heaven is through their only truth. There is no way that one person can discover all of the different gods and choose which one that would be the truest, let's say, because all of them are saying the same thing.
Well, it's a crapshoot. I mean, you're just hedging your bet. It's no different than going into a casino and rolling dice. Maybe you're gonna, maybe it'll come up a 7 or whatever it is.
But it had to be a dice with 10,000
sides
on
it.
Right.